So welcome back everybody, this is Paul again making another one of my videos, and like I've said many times before, I'm just one little person out here, nobody special, just somebody who makes observations and looks at a lot of YouTube videos and reads a lot of books and listens to interviews. And a lot of times I've gotten accused, personal, my friends and so on, they say, well, why are you so negative and so on, and I understand the reaction and so on, but there is a time for being very alert because I'm a pilot, for example, and I've got basic, experience flying a plane. And one thing you learn right away is that, every minute that you're in that airplane, from the time that you roll down the runway and you're flying along and you land and get safely off the runway, you're thinking, what could go wrong? What do I got to do in case something happens here? You're always observing. So in our lives, we go through our lives, a lot of times we assume, well, I don't have to do anything, just kind of do it. We assume things are going on just the way they're going to go on. And all's going to be well, and we're going to go through our day, and so on. But we know personally from our friends and experiences, and especially if you live in many countries of the world where there's already tremendous tragedies going on, wars and so on, we go about our life, for example, if you're going and living in a suburb, you think, well, everything's cool here. I go to the mall after work and I pick up a little shopping and I go home and get my groceries and everything's just fine. But our life is not disturbed. But right now in the world, many, many places in the world, there's a tremendous problem. People are living in like a literal hell, in a way, with wars and bombings and buildings collapsing and just incredible stuff. So a lot of people who watch my videos, they just are very comfortable in their life and they don't think about these stuff. Hey, what are you talking about? Collapse or whatever. And I understand that and everything, but the problem is that we don't have awareness, though there's a lot of information that we get from online and from TV and so on. But most of us are so busy in our lives, we don't understand, we don't get the details and try to put the picture together of what's really going on because we're too busy planning our little lives to see the bigger picture. Now, I thought of this analogy, let's say, for example, let's say there's a Native Americans or some little tribe somewhere and they're living way out in the middle of the jungle and they're just happily living their lives, and this has actually happened little by little, far away from them. They don't see it right away, but people are harvesting the forest and cutting and making roads and doing stuff, and you don't realize it. They just kind of live their little lives. Maybe all that stuff's a mile or two away, but sooner or later they just look, wait a minute here, our forest isn't as big anymore. And the things that happens, the change that happens in our society, a lot of people got excited about 2000, year 2000, 2012. Look, catastrophes do happen, and if it's not happening near you right now, even since the last 20, 30 years, I mean, there's just been many, many earthquakes, catastrophes. Look at Fukushima, nobody talks about Chernobyl. I mean, many, many, many catastrophes have happened. So if you're listening to this and you think, well, no catastrophes happening near me, well, you're lucky. So I thought what I'd do is I'd try to start presenting about what real possibilities exist. Right now, let's say there was like 10 or 12 really serious possibilities that would just dramatically, instantly affect our whole lives. Tomorrow, right, from the rest, I mean, for example, let's say you were living in New York City during 9/11. I was 50 miles away. And I saw just something like that, which was actually a fairly small event in one day, not like an ongoing 2 or 3 month war. It was one thing, and it changed everything in our country only 15 years ago. And as a result of that experience, then a whole lot of other catastrophes have happened in other parts of the world. And then, of course, there was that tsunami that happened. I forgot when that was. And then there was the one in Asia. Then there was the big Haiti thing. I mean, there's all kinds of problems that are actually going on. Now, I want to get into a bunch of them, but there is a time that's appropriate to sound an alarm when stuff's happening. And when you have like a whole bunch of bells ringing, you have to say something. So now, one thing that I wanted to talk about is the banking system. The banking system in the world is very, very complex. It actually goes back to some very ancient roots. And basically, in a nutshell, the way it's designed is sort of like a Ponzi scheme. I mean, it really is. It's kind of like, okay, I'll loan you money. I'll really loan you money I don't really have because I have this, agreement with, as part of the law, or I have this right to loan you money, and I'll just put some numbers in your bank, and I'll just create that money, and I'll give you this note. And you have to pay me back, like let's say you borrow $100,000, and by the time you pay off it, the interest is like $130,000. So you're paying, there's really, the way it's structured is there's never going to be enough actual money to pay off the interest because it's an endless series of debt. And the countries of the world are in incredible debt. And without getting too complicated, you got to look it up here. But banks have loans too. They invest in stuff. They invest in speculative stuff. And sometimes the things that they invest in, okay, they take your money, they make a ton of money with it, and then they invest that money. They actually buy real things. But let's say they buy property. Well, property goes down. So let's say have like huge banks, and it goes up. If you follow the money, you get to the Bank of the International Settlements. There's an international bank, and of course they're all secret members, and they have immunity, and you know how that is. You got chummy. You're controlling the money. You're controlling everything. But all the little people in the world, you and I, we go down a little credit union or a little bank, and we're paying our little interest, and we don't really understand how trillions of dollars that come flowing into these banks, and then they invest in things that are very speculative, and that's what happened in 2008, and that's actually what happened in, 1929. That wasn't that long ago. Okay, 1987, 2008. I mean, how many different crashes have there been? There are a lot of them in historical memory. And my parents lived through a depression. A real depression where people are like, wow, I mean, if it happened today, I mean, it would be incredibly disastrous. So one of the things that is extremely vulnerable, what a lot of people don't think about, is the money system. For example, again, there is more money in bank accounts, in theoretical money, in accumulate, but there's not nearly the same amount of actual physical money. So let's say on one day, if everybody decides, hey, you know what, I'm going to take out $10,000, or I'm going to empty my bank account, and I want it all in cash, I'm going to do whatever, I'm going to buy something. Well, the banks are going to like freak out because like, wait a minute here, we don't even have that much cash. That's why you have limits on your account. You can't go down to the bank and say $3,000 and then take another $3,000 later in the afternoon. You can't do that. If you want to get all your money out, you have to go get permission. If you have a lot of money in the bank, and if it's over $10,000, there's a lot of questions that they want to ask. Well, I would like to have $100,000 in physical cash, and I'll be on my way. Don't worry about it, but try that at the bank. So what's happening is our banking system is based on like vapors. I mean, it's just basically based on a lot of assumptions. And if the people lose confidence in the banking system for whatever reason, let's say there's an emergency like a power outage or something extraordinary like that, then everybody's going to run down to their ATM and start getting all their money out, and it's just going to be a freeze on the system. So that is just one thing that could cause a catastrophe very, very quickly, which has it's actually happened in some countries, like what happened to Greece recently. Apparently the bank said, well, we need some money here to pay off our debt, so we're just going to take some money out of our customers' accounts. That's part of our assets. We'll just kind of skim some off. So that's just one thing. Now I'm going to try to get into another video here and talk about some major stuff, but here, our food system. Our food system incredibly vulnerable. Less quality food, less of it. We don't grow food. People don't produce their own food. If the markets were closed for a couple of weeks, I mean, for a power outage or whatever, it would be a total disaster. They're overfishing. They're over farming, they're polluting the soil, they're polluting the water. I mean, if you just take that, okay, there's another catastrophe building. It's like the death of 1,000 cuts. Okay, the mistaken impression that we have to have one day where there's a catastrophe. No, we have like a whole series of events, one after another, after another, after another, to the point where it's just like, okay, this horse can't walk anymore, you know? And it just falls down. And that's kind of the situation where a lot of people, I'm going to talk about this next, is the amount of ignorance that people have. Ignorance is not stupidity. It's just like, if I don't know what's going to happen, I mean, I can't really be blamed. I just didn't know, but we're not giving the right information. We are not getting enough information to make important decisions about our lives and our existence, to even understand what's going on in government. They're selling the whole country behind our backs. We don't even know they have secret deals. So if we don't have proper information, we're ignorant. We're not stupid. We just don't know things that we really need to know. And that's a really big problem because people don't read. It's like, okay, I only need to know what the sports teams are and who's, you know, whatever the popular things going on and what's my candidate doing and what are they saying and all that stuff. But if we don't know what these candidates, you know, do behind the scenes, they come out every once in a while and say, here I am, vote for me, I'll do this and that and I'll promise you this and that, and like they have a whole big thing going on, and then next thing you know, it's like, okay, election's over, sorry, I won't do anything that I said I was going to do. I got my pals and I have some agendas. And that's how we live. We live in a state of ignorance. And the thing is that I've said in many videos, each human being has tremendous, tremendous power. Each human being is a tremendous power. But the power of knowing what's going on so that we can make intelligent decisions. And for that, we have to have an open mind. We have to have a broader perception if we're going to start connecting the dots, you know. And I want to get into some of these other things because we got the wars going on and political corruption, and we have volcanic action going on, and the weather's changing, and the Gulf Stream stopping, and we have some serious stuff going on. They're not getting solved. And I just feel like that's why I sound alarms now and then, because I feel like, okay, look, like I said in piloting and so on, okay, if you're aware of something, I'm not trying to say something will happen. I'm saying the potential for something to happen is serious, but if we pay attention and we just kind of take action and be prudent, then there's a very good chance that those things don't need to happen. Very, very good chance. But there's things already going on that are in momentum, like, for example, the fisheries. I mean, they're stripping out the oceans. I mean, we got to stop that. But how do we do that? You know, so... You know, that's why I get a little discouraged sometimes. I think people should live a little simpler and have less to lose and more easier to manage, and just kind of like, okay, like what if the grocery stores were closed for 2 weeks? Could I deal? What if the bank was closed for 2 weeks? Could I deal? In American cities today, if the power went out for 2 weeks, it'd be a total disaster. I mean, but where I live, a woman told me nearby, like, the power went out one time for 2 weeks. They just had food. They lived on a farm. And they chilled out for a while, and they're around. It's just a matter of like preparation, knowing what to do and how to respond to certain things, and having kind of an idea what to do in advance. So again, thanks again for watching. I'll try to make a continuation of this video series and talk a little bit more about the possible problems that we're getting into.